Halo Reach, chronologically the first title in the legendary Halo franchise and a prequel to Xbox's flagship title released in September 2010. Although I didn't play Halo Reach when it first came out, I've always wanted to try it. Halo Combat Evolved was a game I grew up with, and the world and the lore that was built in that game at the time felt so vast and deep, and I absolutely loved it. I remember at the time I didn't get a chance to continue the story with its sequel, Halo 2, and life essentially just got in the way, so recently, when the Master Chief Collection was on special, I just couldn't say no. Admittedly, I haven't stayed too close to the franchise itself since Combat Evolved, so I basically went into Halo Reach blind, really without any experience. The game drops you straight in with your typical opening cinematic to explain the story so far and how the player fits into the story, but when the mission starts, the action doesn't take too long to follow up. Although it's hard to say how the original launch graphics would look today in comparison, the update as part of the Master Chief Collection presents itself a lot better than I would have expected for a game this age. I also found the art style, level design, and framing for a lot of the game to be highlights throughout the multiple missions. Admittedly, one might suggest the game is somewhat short. I personally think the length of the campaign meant it didn't overstay its welcome though. The various difficulty options and multiplayer aspect also mean there's enough replayability to keep you busy if you're that way inclined. This is the player base at the time of writing for this video, over 9,000 people today, though this reflects the entire MCC, not just Reach. During my playthrough, the controls felt responsive and each of the weapons felt unique enough to at least be worth trying out. I guess it's not really a surprise now when you realize that this was the last Halo game that Bungie worked on, and they are pretty widely known for creating some high quality gunplay. Though I did start my campaign on legendary difficulty, I definitely felt like the iconic assault rifle was just not doing enough damage, but when I lowered the difficulty to heroic, things felt much more manageable. I do think the driving mechanics in most vehicles will take some getting used to, but for the most part it does the job, and with multiplayer still active, a rework probably wouldn't be great. Steering with the mouse definitely has some pros and cons to it, so it will likely work better for some than others and will more than likely throw you out when you jump in and out of games with their own driving mechanics. Now, when it comes to the soundtrack, perhaps I'm a bit biased, but I did find myself missing the original Halo theme music. Perhaps my expectations needed to be managed better? I'm not too sure. On re-listening to the soundtrack for this video though, I will say it is a very respectable piece of art and does a great job setting the tone throughout the story campaign.
Might want to hold on to something.
The sound design is also solid, and the voice work is effective in bringing each of the unique characters to life without stealing the show.
All major upping components are fried.
2 minutes is too long.
Which is why I'm splicing into the main overland bundle.
Friend of yours?
Father.
Sha'ain alum. I'm sorry.
Why would you be?
Big man forgets what he is sometimes.
She just lost her father.
Look, I definitely normally prefer my single-player narrative-led games, but I found the story very enjoyable and super engaging. Although some might argue there were cliches and the narrative was quite typical and predictable, I personally thought the game did really well with its storytelling, and I'd compare it to something like Rogue One of the Star Wars franchise. Again, to be fair, that is probably my favorite Star Wars film overall though. Being someone who played Halo Combat Evolved, I always loved the lore and the world building the first game did to engage the player. I know that the fast-paced combat, the weapon and vehicle variety, and overall gameplay was unique and done well enough to make Halo an iconic game at the time, but for me it will always be the story that drew me in. Most gamers around today would have at least heard of the Halo franchise and the impact it had as the flagship title for Xbox when it originally launched, and it definitely still is worthy of appreciation. It's a shame that today more and more older games are being forgotten, because in my opinion, video games really are their own art form. and through that lens, you could say they are timeless.
Not the word I would use.
Ironically, the reverse is also
going on?
true, I think.
Go ahead. Explain.
Whenever you look back or replay an older game, it gives you a glimpse of what experiences people had at the time. Now, overall, I can't say any singular thing in this game is a huge standout individually, but they are all really well done. I mean, to me, the game is greater than the sum of all its parts, from the music to the graphics, the voice acting and sound design, from the gameplay and gunplay, and obviously the story really works well to give the player a super fun and engaging experience.
To please.
I do recommend playing Halo Reach in 2023, and if my memory serves me right about the first Halo game, I think it's probably worth playing through the entire Master Chief Collection too.